Good morning. Welcome back to the Boatnik. Today I'm going to spend just a little bit of time getting some plugs back in these here holes I've been reinforcing here on this Com-Pac 16. I want to emphasize first of all that what I've already done by putting in that piece in the back, that is the structural repair. That's done. These screws come back out. That was just temporarily to hold that in place. The fiberglass backer that I put in here is probably twice as thick as the original fiberglass that the boat was made from. It's a very strong panel of glass that I put in there, and it covers a large area in the back, and it was well sanded down and cleaned, and I used I wetted out both surfaces with epoxy after cleaning and everything, and let that sit for just a little bit while I was mixing up some thickened epoxy, and then that panel was put behind there using heavy thickened epoxy with colloidal silica, and then clamped into place with these screws in the old speaker holes. That pulled it all up tight, and I got squeezed out all the way around, and then I put a fillet with the squeeze out all the way around. So that is structurally sound right there. That's done. So what I'm doing from this point on is just cleaning it up a little bit and making it look better. Okay, this, I would feel confident with that, just like it is as far as structural integrity, water tightness, just like it is, and be good. Like I say, whatever I do now is just more cosmetic in nature. But that said, what I've done, I've sanded this out good again, although I did clean it after I glassed that in good then. But I've sanded it out good. I've cut me some circles out of a donor boat that's about the same thickness as what's there. And that was as close of a hole saw as I had, but that's fine because I'm going to need to have a little bit of squeeze out and fair it out anyway to blend it in. And then I'll eventually, gel coat this whole thing. But for now, what I'm doing is I'm going to take these screws out, and I've also sanded the back of these real good to get all the gel coat off the back. So I've got good glass. I'm getting ready to clean all this stuff with acetone before I glue it in to get rid of any of the dust and that kind of thing. I'll put that in with thickened epoxy, again with colloidal silica. And then I'll take and use 2 of these screws and put a bar clamp across this thing with like a little thickened area in the middle, a washer or something to put pressure on it right there in the middle to hold it in place, and just to hold it in place like that. And then I'll come back with some fairing compound and sand it out, clean it up, and get it all ready for gel coat. I won't be doing gel coat today. This is all I'm doing right now. It's just getting these plugs glued in just to make that look, a little bit better, a little bit more finished. But it's just an inexpensive way to do a repair whenever you've got some donor fiberglass panels or whatever that you can use. And like I say, that is certainly as strong, if not stronger, than if I had a laid up wet glass, in 2 or 3 layers on the back there and tied it in. This is, at least in my opinion, is just as good, possibly better, because it's thicker than it would have been if I had it done a wet layup. And it's less intrusive, it's quicker, it's cheaper. I'm using scrap materials pretty much, and it is in my opinion, a completely acceptable way to do this repair. It's a nice cool morning, but the sun is really bright. I am going to attempt to show you here. I'm going to cut a hole out of this donor boat, if you will. You can see where I cut a couple holes out of it before. This is the boat that's going to be scrapped soon, and I need a couple of large diameter holes, fiberglass circles, for working on that little Com-Pac 16 I'm working on. And as you can see, I just cut a a whole lot of a scrap, and I'm using the outside piece to hold my bit in place, because I'm going to drill this without that center bit to hold it in line. So it'll have a tendency to just jump everywhere. And so this will hopefully keep it in place. And also I'm going to use a tip from a viewer from a couple of videos back, that suggested starting a hole saw in reverse, until you get through the gel coat, and that helps you not crack the chip or crack the gel coat, which is a really good tip. But he reminded me of that very kindly, and so I'm going to use that technique here. My problem is my larger drill with the with the handle on it, the reverse doesn't work. So I'm going to have to use a small drill without the side handle. So I've just got my little 3/8 inch drill here. And when you're drilling, when you're working with a large hole saw like this, they're actually kind of dangerous. And you can break your wrist or damage something, or hurt yourself pretty easy with them. So you do have to be very careful. And ideally, I would want a side handle on this to better control it. But this is a 3/8 inch drill, and the reverse does work on this drill. Well, I think it does. There it is. Yeah, reverse works on this one. So I'm going to start out in reverse to get a bit of a path cut through the gel coat there. Like I said, that was a tip from a viewer, and I appreciate it very much. But as you can see, that is holding that bit firmly in place. And you can see I've already pretty much cut through the gel coat that quick in reverse. And without too much effort, I could probably cut through all of it. But I am going to put it forward and show you how it'll grab. And like I say, it's an easy way to get hurt on these larger, especially these larger diameter hole saws. Light pressure, and honestly, it usually works a little better if you can put a little bit of pressure at ever so slightly of an angle, rather than trying to have all of the teeth grabbing at one time. Go get my mask on. The first thing I got to do to these circles I cut out is sand off that paint off the back, or gel coat. I guess it might be gel coat. And I'm getting ready to clean off this silicone. The speakers were put in with silicone, so I've got to clean off all this silicone here, and I'm going to scrape it off first of all. First of all, I'm going to take out the screws, then I'm going to scrape that off with a scraper, which I've got a scraper here somewhere. And then I'm going to use this Marine Formula debond and go over it and with a coarse rag and just try to get all that residue off. Silicone is really hard to get off. It's really frustrating and aggravating to do. But like I said, I've already sanded it. Just put the sander in there and sanded it good for the second time, since it's been a few days since I've worked on it. And I don't know what I did with my scraper. I must have left it in the shop. I've got to go back and find my scraper. Oh, I'm sitting on it. So like I say, just going to do what I can do to get some of the silicone off. Silicone has its place and purposes. I may have to put the heat gun on these screws to get them out. but just silicone doesn't have very many places on the boat. Put a little more pressure on them and got them to come out so far. Okay. Already got the screws out of this end down here. Just got to try to get off this silicone. So this is stronger than it was from the factory there before, even before that hole was drilled in it. That was always flimsy and fairly thin, and now it's considerably beefier, and that repair goes all the way back, you know, from corner to corner there, and all the way down lower down to the bottom. And like I said, it's a good structural repair. It's a good way to do it, honestly. It's simple, it's strong, it's effective. It's just easier and faster and cheaper than, you know, tapering out everything and doing a wet layup over the hole, which is a good way to do it. But this is just also a good way for this situation. This was a good solution. Okay, spray a little D-bond on it. Let that sit for just a little bit. And it breaks it right up. Doesn't take long. And I'm gonna go get me some finer sandpaper and sand over these areas good. And then I'll clean it one last time with some acetone and then glue those circles in. So the back of these circles I sanded with 40 grit, and this right here has been sanded with 40 grit, but I'm going to use some 220 grit and try to clean that area up a little bit. This is just dirt stains where dirt grime got behind those speakers, rainwater. And I get rid of some of that dirt and grit and stuff, but it also got rid of any, hopefully got rid of any other little bit of silicone that might have still been clinging there. Everything gets wetted out with epoxy resin first. Okay, now I don't want that to harden, but I'm fine if it starts to get a little bit, just a tiny bit tacky is good. We'll put some blue painter's tape over the back side of my my little clamping jig here, just to where hopefully it won't be stuck so hard I have to chisel it off later. I mixed up this epoxy resin with colloidal silica. and then I added a little bit of fairing compound to it to make it a little bit less runny and a little bit more sticky. Seems to help. And these pieces are pretty much dead on the thickness I needed, but I can use my clamp to slightly adjust the depth that it recesses in, so I can hopefully end up with it pretty much flush. And I'm going to give this just a little bit of a twist and a squeeze as I put it in there. Using some alcohol to clean up just a little bit before I put everything in place to make it hard to get to. Okay, so that's got it clamped in place. The squeeze out will fill in the gap in a minute here. I'll go ahead and get the other one stuck in place. Denatured alcohol is the best thing I found for cleaning up epoxy drips and spills and stuff. Clean up as much as I can here, and then the rest of it gets sanded off later. I'll come back out here in 30 or 40 minutes and take that clamp off and clean up behind that clamp, maybe less than that. It's getting kind of warm, but that's my first pass at it, at least I'd say. Like I say, I come out here, once that starts hardening a bit where it won't move, I'll take off that clamp and go ahead and do some cleanup and maybe go ahead and catch my holes, my screw holes. The way I do my screw holes, I use a countersink bit, and I countersink it from the face side down to about halfway into the panel, and then I go to the back side if I can get to it, and I countersink from the back side as well, back about halfway through. And then in cross section, that gives you kind of like an hourglass shape. And then whenever you fill that with thickened epoxy from both sides, meets in the middle, and you just press until you get some squeeze out one side or the other and flush it up. And then it hardens into kind of like an hourglass shaped plug that can't come out either way. Well, I let this set up while I ate lunch, and it's dry to touch but still soft. Put your fingernail in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these little clamp things off. And try to clean up that last little bit there. This stuff is real soft. I just take my razor and kind of slide it sideways. Just try kind of sliding it sideways as I push it forward gently and just clean it up a bit. Where that board was at. And that actually is pretty flush. Like I say, by the time I mix up just a little bit of fairing compound, it won't take much to flush that up. And I'm not in a particular hurry to gel coat it. I've got some other gel coat patching to do on the boat, and I'll probably wait until I just get it all ready and then do it all at the same time. Now for these little holes here, I mean, they're not even 1/8 inch. I'm gonna just take this countersink bit here and hit them from both sides to open them up. Give me more surface area too, but it also gives a cross section, like an hourglass kind of thing, that has a tendency not to be able to go either way, so it can't like crack and separate and fall out. I just try to go about halfway through. And then I do the same thing from the back side. Okay, I did clean these holes out, and I pre-wetted them with some epoxy resin, and then I've got this fairly thick, so it won't run out on me. And I'm just trying to squeeze it through. Using the stick to kind of squeeze it through, and it definitely screws out on the back side. As you can see there, it squeezed back through the front side. So I know it's full. Okay, good enough of that.